The crisis in the Red Sea threatens to disrupt global supply chains even more than the pandemic did. Michael Snyder reports. Do you remember the supply chain problems that we experienced during the darkest days of the COVID pandemic? Well, now we're being warned that the crisis in the Red Sea could actually disrupt global supply chains to an even greater degree. Needless to say, this comes at a really bad time because the U.S. economy has really been struggling lately. The U.S. and the U.K. are desperate to resolve this crisis, so they've been bombing the living daylights out of the Houthis in Yemen, and we have not seen anything like this from the U.S. military since the early days of the Afghanistan and Iraq wars. On Monday, there was yet another round of strikes. The U.S. and U.K. conducted air and missile strikes on rebels' facilities across Yemen Monday, according to a joint statement, stepping up operations against militant groups who attack ships in the Red Sea. The US and UK militaries, with support from Australia, Bahrain, Canada, and the Netherlands, went against Houthi targets in Yemen in response to their continued attacks, according to a joint statement from the countries involved, intending to disrupt and degrade the capabilities that Houthis use to threaten global trade going through the Red Sea. And the lives of innocent mariners. Now, unfortunately, so far, the strikes did not do much. The Houthis continue their attacks on commercial vessels in the Red Sea, and this is greatly frustrating U.S. officials. When asked about the air and missiles strikes, Joe Biden admitted that they are not working, but he says that they will continue anyway. President Joe Biden and his top aides have repeatedly said the strikes on targets alone won't stop the Iran-backed militants from threatening commercial shipping in the Middle East. And when asked by a reporter last week if the strikes were working, Biden responded, well, when you say working, are they stopping the Houthis? No. Are they going to continue? Yes, he said. And in addition to the missile strikes, we'll soon see additional measures. Is that a question? It's being reported that the Biden administration is now planning a sustained military campaign against the Houthis, and over the weekend, U.S. officials told Washington Post the Biden administration is planning for a sustained military campaign against the Iran-backed Yemeni rebels, even after some 7 rounds of major strikes have done nothing to deter or degrade their drone and missile attacks. Notably, U.S. leaders have still refused at this point, refusing to use the word war in relation to the large-scale U.S. coalition attacks as part of the Operation Prosperity Guardian. And that definitely sounds like conflict and war, and Congress has not approved it. But of course, our federal government has not been following the Constitution for a long time. So what all of this means is that the crisis in the Red Sea is going to persist for the foreseeable future. And at this point, shipping giant Maersk is warning that customers there will be significant disruption in the global network. The situation around the Red Sea Gulf of Aden continues to be closely monitored by our teams, they said, in the interest of safety for our vessels, crews, and customers' cargo. All vessels previously due to transit the area have been diverted south around the Cape of Good Hope for the foreseeable future. So they have to go all around the Cape of Africa. And while we hope for a substantial resolution, they said, in the near future and do all we can to contribute towards it, we do encourage customers to prepare for complications in the area to persist and for there to be significant disruptions in the global network. Our teams are on hand to support you with planning should you need any assistance, they said. And at the World Economic Forum's yearly gathering, the CEO of Maersk actually admitted that we could see disruptions in the supply chain for a few months at least. Maersk CEO Vincent Clerc told Reuters in the sidelines of the World Economic Forum in Davos on Wednesday that global shipping networks will be disrupted for at least a few months. He said, for us, this will mean longer transit times and probably disruptions of the supply chain for a few months at least, hopefully shorter, but it could also be longer because it's so unpredictable how this situation is actually developing. So this is very serious. There will be delays and there will be shortages. Many commercial ships are now being routed all the way around the continent of Africa, and that can add approximately 3,500 nautical miles to every journey. Steering clear of the Red Sea and taking the lengthy detour around the Cape of Good Hope, however, adds around 3,500 nautical miles, or 6,500 kilometers, and 10 to 12 days sailing time to each trip. And this requires, of course, extra fuel, an additional $1 million worth, according to some estimates, possibly finding alternative ports of call, adjustments to delivery timetables, and rising costs. But many companies are making that choice rather than risk attack by missiles going through the Red Sea, or even hijacking of their ships. Container lines have been left scrambling to rent enough ships for the lengthened journeys their vessels must now take to avoid the Red Sea, and there are fears that the crisis could have widespread economic impacts, pushing up prices of goods and delaying deliveries of high-value products by weeks or perhaps even longer. So it's a big mess, and now it's going away. It's not going away anytime soon. One firm that has analyzed the crisis in the Red Sea is claiming that it's already damaging global supply chains more than COVID pandemic did. A leading ocean supply chain advisory firm is warning that the disruptions in shipping from the Houthi rebel attacks in the Red Sea are already more damaging to the supply chain impact than the early COVID-19 pandemic. Sea Intelligence analyzed current vessel delays compared to delays over the last several years in a report for clients. The data shows that the longer transit around the Cape of Good Hope as ships divert from the Red Sea is already having a more significant impact on vessels available to pick up containers at ports and during the pandemic. This supply chain measure is known in the industry as a vessel capacity. The vessel capacity drop is the second largest in recent years, according to Alan Murphy, CEO of Sea Intelligence. The only single event with a bigger impact than the Red Sea crisis was the Ever Given, the giant cargo ship which got stuck in the Suez Canal for 6 days during March 2021. Supply chains in Europe and Asia are being hit harder than supply chains in North America. In fact, some automakers in Europe have already announced that they are temporarily halting production. Due to the ongoing attack on Red Sea shipping, major automakers such as Tesla and Volvo Car have announced that they are temporarily halting productions in Europe due to component shortages. This development underscores the direct impact of the Red Sea shipping disruptions on regional industrial operations. Tesla officials said production of most vehicles at its Berlin plant will be suspended from January 29 to February 11. Tesla cited parts shortages resulting from ships being diverted through Africa's southernmost point as the main reason. The increased travel time has caused disruptions in the supply chain, and components delay have affected the production of electric car assembled for the European market. It's just one case that was reported. But even through Europe and Asia, even though they'll experience more disruptions than we will, that is in North America, the truth is that the entire globe will eventually feel this pain. And if the war in the Middle East goes to an entirely new level later this year, that will make things many times worse. So I hope that you've been getting prepared for the shortages that are coming. Even now, tightening supplies of pork have pushed prices up to extremely alarming levels. Since mid-December, the wholesale spot prices for boxed pork belly 200 pounds jumped from $80 to more than $133, or about a 66% increase on tightening supplies. The environment for pork producers was challenging in 2023, with many losses, on average at $32 per head. This trend is expected to continue this year. Last month, Smithfield Foods, the world's pork processor, revealed it would shutter 26 of its contracted hog operations across Utah. This is just the tip of the iceberg. Suppliers of so many things are going to be getting tight in the months ahead. Needless to say, our society is not going to handle any major economic disruptions very well. Poverty, homelessness, and hunger are all rapidly growing, and our cities are absolutely packed with vast hordes of extremely desperate people. We now live in an environment where many of these extremely desperate people will get violent at the slightest provocation. If things are this bad now, what will conditions be like during the tremendous chaos that's ahead of us? Everything that we have been through since the early portion of 2020 has just been a preview of coming attractions. We're still only in the very early chapters of this perfect storm, but most people out there still believe that things will return to normal eventually. This is by Michael Snyder. And he says about the author, my name is Michael, and my brand new book entitled Chaos is now available in paperback and for Kindle on Amazon. In addition to my new book, I've written 7 other books that are available on Amazon, including 7-Year Apocalypse, Lost Prophecies of the Future America, The Beginning of the End, and Living a Life That Really Matters, commissions earned. When you purchase any of these books, you help to support the work that I'm doing. And one way that you can really help is by sending copies as gifts to family and friends. Time is short and I need help getting these warnings into the hands of as many people as possible. I have also started a brand new Substack newsletter, and I encourage you to subscribe so that you won't miss any of my articles. I've published thousands of articles on the Economic Collapse blog, End of the American Dream and the Most Important News, and the articles that I publish on those sites are republished on dozens of other prominent websites all over the globe. I always freely ask and happily allow others to republish my articles on their own websites, but I also ask that they include this about the author section with each article. The material contained in this article is for general information purposes only, and readers should consult licensed professionals before making any legal, business, financial, or health decisions. I encourage you to follow me on social media, Facebook and Twitter, and any way that you can share these articles with others is definitely a great help. These are such troubled times and people need hope. John 3:16 tells us about the hope that God has given us through Jesus Christ. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish but have everlasting life. If you have not already done so, I strongly urge you to invite Jesus Christ to be your Lord and Savior today. This is on the Economic Collapse blog by Michael Snyder. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.